They say you can never really leave your past behind, that the choices we make and the people we meet follow us across oceans and through time. 6 months ago, I thought I'd closed the door on the most terrifying chapter of my life. I'd survived being accidentally kidnapped by the Korean Mafia. I'd helped bring down their rival family. I'd walked away free. I thought I was done with the Choi family. I was wrong, because on a cold February morning in Atlanta, while I was getting ready for my first day of internship interviews at Coca-Cola headquarters, my phone rang with a number I'd saved but never expected to see again. The caller ID read, Ji-hoon Seoul. And when I answered, I heard something I'd never heard before in his voice. Fear. Maya, he said, and I could hear traffic in the background, the sound of someone moving fast. Maya, I need you to listen carefully. Don't react. Just listen. My stomach dropped. What happened? My uncle is dead. And I think someone in my family killed him. Welcome back to my story. If you're new here, I'm Maya Carter, a 21-year-old black woman from Atlanta with Korean heritage. And this is the story of how I went from college student to the most unlikely person ever involved in Korean organized crime. Last time, I told you how I accidentally stumbled into a Choi family meeting during my semester abroad in Seoul. How I got kidnapped, held at their compound, and eventually helped them take down their rival family. How I thought I'd escaped with my life and my sanity mostly intact. But here's what I didn't tell you. When you save a crime family, even accidentally, they remember. They consider you family. And when family is in trouble, they call. So if you're ready for the next chapter, for murders, betrayals, international flights, and me trying to solve a crime while also surviving my senior year of college, hit that subscribe button. Because this story gets darker, more complicated, and way more dangerous than anything I experienced in part 1. This is The Inheritance. Let's begin. It was February 12, 2024. 6 months since I'd left Seoul. 6 months since I'd hugged Mrs. Choi goodbye and promised to visit soon. 6 months since Ji-hoon had looked at me at the airport and said, "Stay safe, Maya. Live your normal life." I kept that promise. I'd focused on being a normal senior at Spelman College. I'd joined the Business Analytics Club. I'd applied for internships. I'd gone to parties and pretended that the most exciting thing in my life was whether I'd get an offer from Deloitte or PwC. My mama was proud. My friends thought I was thriving. Nobody knew that sometimes late at night I'd think about the compound, about dinners with the family, about the grandmother who'd told me I had iron in my spine, about Ji-hoon who'd gone from classmate to captor to something I couldn't quite name. We texted occasionally. Surface level stuff. How's senior year? How's the business? Nothing deep. Nothing that acknowledged what we'd been through together. Until that morning. I was standing in my apartment, a little one-bedroom off campus that I shared with my roommate Keisha, trying to decide between 2 interview outfits. Navy blazer or charcoal gray. My hair was laid, my makeup was perfect, and I was feeling good about my chances. Then my phone rang. Ji-hoon. I answered surprised. It's like 2 a.m. in Seoul. What? Maya. His voice cut through. Sharp. Urgent. My uncle is dead. The blazer I was holding fell to the floor. What? He died 3 days ago. Car accident on the highway between Seoul and Busan. Single vehicle collision. He lost control, went off the road, the car caught fire. Ji-hoon's words came out mechanical, like he'd repeated them so many times they'd lost meaning. They're calling it an accident. But Maya, my uncle was the best driver I've ever known. He'd driven that route hundreds of times. And there are things about the accident that don't add up. I sat down on my bed, my interview completely forgotten. What kind of things? The brake lines. The investigators said they failed. But the car was new, he just bought it 2 months ago. It had been serviced the week before. And Maya. He paused, and I heard him take a shaky breath. The night before he died, he called me. He said he needed to talk to me about something important. About someone in the family he didn't trust. He was going to tell me who the next morning. He died before we could meet. My skin went cold. Ji-hoon. The funeral is in 5 days. The family is gathering. And my grandmother. His voice cracked slightly. My grandmother specifically asked for you. She said, "Bring the Carter girl home." She will see what we cannot. I can't just fly to Korea. I have interviews, I have classes, Maya, please. And there it was, the raw desperation I'd never heard from him before. I don't know who to trust anymore. Half the family thinks it really was an accident. The other half is positioning for power now that Uncle Dae-jung is gone. There are cousins who want to return to the old ways. There are rivals circling. And I'm supposed to step up and lead, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know who killed him or why, or if they're going to come after me next. You think you're in danger? I know I'm in danger. We all are. The family is fracturing, Maya. Everything Uncle Dae-jung worked for, going legitimate, building a clean future, it's all falling apart. And I think someone in our family wanted that to happen. I closed my eyes, thought about my interview at Coca-Cola, thought about my mama, who would absolutely lose her mind if she knew I was even considering this. Thought about my normal life, my safe life, my future. Then I thought about Choi Dae-jung, who'd kidnapped me but also protected me, who'd trusted me, who'd told me my grandmother would be proud of how I survived. And I thought about the grandmother at the compound, who'd held my hand and told me I had iron in my spine, who was asking for me specifically. Send me the flight details, I said quietly. Maya. Send them. I'll figure out the rest. After we hung up, I sat there for a long moment, staring at my 2 interview outfits, at the life I'd carefully rebuilt, at the normalcy I'd fought so hard to reclaim. Then I called Coca-Cola and rescheduled my interview, citing a family emergency overseas, which was technically true. I just left out the part about the family being the Korean Mafia. Telling my mama I was going back to Korea was complicated. I couldn't tell her the truth, that a man who'd once held me hostage was dead and his family thought he'd been murdered. That would have resulted in her showing up at my apartment with the entire Atlanta Police Department and possibly the FBI. So I lied. Sort of. Mama, I said when I FaceTimed her that evening. Remember Mrs. Choi? The Korean family friend I stayed with sometimes during my semester abroad. This was technically true. I had stayed with them, just not voluntarily at first. The one who kept sending you home with all that food? Mama said, smiling. I remember. That woman could cook. Her husband passed away. Car accident. The funeral is next week and she specifically asked if I could come. She was really good to me when I was there. And, baby, of course you should go. Mama's face softened immediately. That's the right thing to do. How long will you be gone? Maybe a week? 10 days at most. I already talked to my professors about making up the work. You need money for the flight? No, ma'am. Mrs. Choi is covering it. This was also true. Ji-hoon had sent me first-class tickets. Apparently crime families don't do economy. I just wanted you to know where I'd be. I'm proud of you, Maya. Your Halmini would be too. Honoring relationships, showing up for people who were there for you, that's important. That's character. The guilt hit me like a truck. Because I wasn't just going to pay respects. I was going to investigate a murder. Possibly put myself in danger again. All while lying to my mother about why. But I'd made my choice. I love you, Mama. Love you too, baby. Be safe over there. If only she knew what safe actually looked like in my life. Keisha, my roommate, was less easy to convince. Girl, no. She stood in my doorway, arms crossed, while I packed. Absolutely not. You spent 5 weeks sick with the flu last semester, came back weird and jumpy, and now you're flying back to Korea for a funeral? For people you barely mentioned before? Maya, what is actually going on? Keisha was pre-med, scary smart, and had known me since freshman year. She could read me better than anyone except my mama. It's complicated, I said, folding a black dress. Then uncomplicate it. I can't. Can't or won't. Both. I stopped packing and looked at her. Keisha, I need you to trust me. Yes, something happened in Korea that I haven't told you about. Yes, this trip is more than just a funeral. But I can't explain it right now. I just need you to have my back. Is it dangerous? I didn't answer immediately. Maya, is it dangerous? Potentially. Then don't go. I have to. Why? Because. I struggled to find words that would make sense. Because someone helped me when I was in trouble. And now they need help. And I can't just ignore that. Keisha studied me for a long moment. Then she sighed. Fine. But you're texting me every single day. And if I don't hear from you for more than 24 hours, I'm calling your mama and the State Department. Deal. Deal. She helped me finish packing. And just before I left for the airport, she hugged me tight and whispered, "Whatever this is, be smart. Be safe. And come back, okay?" I will. I hoped I wasn't lying. The flight from Atlanta to Seoul is 14 hours. 14 hours to think about what I was walking into. 14 hours to question every decision that led me here. 14 hours to wonder if I was brave or just spectacularly stupid. I spent most of it reviewing everything I knew about Choi Dae-jung's death. Ji-hoon had emailed me the official accident report. Single vehicle collision. No other cars involved. Security camera footage showed his car losing control on a curved section of highway, crashing through the guardrail, rolling down an embankment. The car caught fire. By the time emergency services arrived, he was dead. The brake lines had failed. Complete failure. The official investigation concluded it was a mechanical defect. Tragic but not suspicious. But Ji-hoon had sent me something else. Photos he'd taken of the crash site. The skid marks didn't match a brake failure pattern. They looked more like someone had swerved deliberately. The angle of impact was wrong. And there were marks on the guardrail that suggested another vehicle might have been involved, despite the cameras showing nothing. Either this was an extremely unlucky accident, or someone had staged it to look like one. And then there was the timing. Choi Dae-jung had been days away from finalizing the family's complete exit from illegal operations. He'd secured buyouts for their last questionable holdings. He'd negotiated deals that would have left the family wealthy and legitimate. Someone had a motive to stop that from happening. I just didn't know who. When the plane finally landed at Incheon International Airport, it was 6 a.m. Seoul time. I was exhausted, nervous, and running on coffee and determination. Ji-hoon was waiting for me at arrivals. He looked terrible. Pale, tired, like he hadn't slept in days. He'd lost weight. But when he saw me, his entire face changed: relief, gratitude, something else I couldn't quite name. "You came," he said. "I said I would. I wasn't sure you actually would. I thought maybe you'd change your mind. Decide this wasn't your problem." "Is that what you would have done?" He smiled just slightly. "No. Then you know why I'm here." We didn't hug. Didn't touch. But something passed between us, an understanding that we were in this together again. Partners in survival. "How bad is it?" I asked as we walked to his car. "Worse than I told you on the phone." The drive to the compound took 45 minutes. Ji-hoon filled me in on everything I'd missed. The family was fracturing. Choi Dae-jung's younger brother, Choi Min-suk, was positioning himself as the natural successor. He'd never supported the legitimate transition. He wanted to maintain the family's traditional power structure. Half the family supported him. The other half supported Ji-hoon, who wanted to continue his uncle's vision. Then there were the cousins. Some saw Dae-jung's death as an opportunity to carve out their own territories. Others were scared and wanted to sell everything and disappear. A few were making secret deals with outside organizations. "It's chaos," Ji-hoon said, gripping the steering wheel. "Every day someone new is making a power play. My grandmother is the only thing holding everyone together. And she's 93, Maya. She's strong but she's tired. If she decides to step back, the family falls apart completely. Or worse, someone consolidates power through force. We end up back where we started, violent, criminal, everything Uncle Dae-jung didn't want for us." "What about your parents?" His hands tightened on the wheel. "My father, Uncle Dae-jung's brother, died when I was 15. Heart attack. My mother remarried and moved to Singapore. She wants nothing to do with the family business. I'm alone in this." "You're not alone," I said quietly. "That's why I'm here." When we pulled up to the compound, I felt a strange mix of emotions. 6 months ago, I'd been brought here as a prisoner. Now I was returning voluntarily. The gates opened, security recognized Ji-hoon's car, and we entered the fortress I'd once desperately wanted to escape. Mrs. Choi met us at the entrance. She looked smaller than I remembered. Grief had aged her. "Maya," she said and pulled me into a tight hug. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you. I'm so sorry for your loss, Mrs. Choi. He spoke highly of you." After you left, he told me you were special, that you had strength most people never develop. She pulled back, studying my face. He was right. Come. Grandmother is waiting. The compound felt different. Quieter. More tense. People moved through the halls with purpose but also suspicion. Everyone was watching everyone else. The easy family atmosphere I remembered was gone, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. Mrs. Choi led me through familiar hallways to a room I'd never entered before, the grandmother's private quarters. It was beautiful. Traditional Korean furniture mixed with family photos spanning decades. The grandmother sat in a chair by the window, looking out at the garden. When we entered, she turned, and those sharp eyes locked onto me. Maya Carter, she said in Korean. You came. Yes, Halmiani. I used the respectful term for grandmother, and something softened in her expression. Sit. We talk. Mrs. Choi left us alone. I sat in the chair across from the grandmother, suddenly nervous. She studied me in silence for a long moment. Then she spoke in slow, careful English. My son is dead. Not by accident. By murder. The bluntness of it hit me hard. You're certain? I am certain. I know my son. I know his skills. I know his enemies. She leaned forward slightly. And I know my family. Someone here wanted him dead. Someone who benefits from chaos. Someone who wants us to return to old ways. Do you know who? I suspect. But I am old woman. People think I am weak now. Confused. They do not tell me truth anymore. Her eyes locked onto mine. But you are outsider. You see what we do not see. You hear what we do not hear. You can move through family and ask questions without raising suspicion. You want me to investigate? I want you to find truth. Before family destroys itself. Halmiani, I'm not a detective. I'm a college student who accidentally got involved in your family's business. I don't know. You survived, she interrupted. You survived when many would not. You learned fast. You adapted. You helped destroy Huang family when we needed help. She reached out and took my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Your grandmother survived Korean War. She married foreign soldier. She built new life in America. That strength lives in you. I see it. My son saw it. Now I need it. What if I fail? What if I make things worse? Then we are no worse than we already are. But if you succeed. She smiled slightly. If you succeed, maybe you save this family from itself. Maybe you finish what my son started. I thought about Choi Dae-jung. How he'd protected me even though I was a liability. How he'd believed in going legitimate, in giving the next generation a better life. How he died trying to make that happen. What do you need me to do? Watch. Listen. Ask questions. Trust your instincts. She squeezed my hand. And trust Ji-hoon. He is good boy. Honest. But young. Inexperienced. Together you are stronger. Together, I repeated. Yes. Like your grandmother and grandfather. 2 worlds, 1 purpose. The funeral was scheduled for the next day. That gave me 1 evening to settle in and start observing the family dynamics. I was given the same room I'd stayed in before, the East Wing 2nd floor. Mina appeared within minutes of my arrival, looking both relieved and terrified. Maya! She hugged me tight. I can't believe you came back. After everything. Of course I came back. Most people would have run as far as they could. I'm not most people. She laughed, but it was hollow. No. You're really not. She sat on my bed and I could see how stressed she was. It's bad here, Maya. Really bad. Everyone's fighting about what happens next. Uncle Min-suk wants to return to traditional operations. Ji-hoon wants to continue Dad's legacy. The cousins all have their own agendas. And meanwhile we're vulnerable. Other families are watching, waiting to see if we fall apart. Your dad, Choi Dae-jung. Do you think his death was an accident? Mina looked at me for a long moment. Then she lowered her voice. No. And I don't think I'm the only one who suspects. But proving it? That's different. Accusing someone in the family of murder? That's dangerous. Who benefits most from his death? Uncle Min-suk. He never supported going legitimate. He made that clear constantly. But he also loved his brother. I can't imagine him actually. She trailed off, struggling with the thought. Then there's Uncle Sang-woo. He's Mom's brother. He was brought in to help manage the transition, but he had gambling debts. Dad was helping him pay them off, but he was frustrated with how long it was taking. And there are cousins who wanted bigger cuts of the legitimate businesses, who felt Dad was too controlling about the transition. So basically half the family had a motive. Welcome to organized crime, Mina said bitterly, where family reunions are potential murder investigations. That night, dinner was a tense affair. The entire family gathered, at least 30 people. I sat between Mina and Ji-hoon, acutely aware that I was the outsider in a room full of people with decades of shared history and complicated loyalties. Choi Min-suk sat at the head of the table where Dae-jung used to sit. He was younger than his brother had been, probably mid-50s, with a harder edge. Where Dae-jung had projected calm authority, Min-suk projected barely controlled aggression. "Let us remember my brother," he said in Korean, then switched to English when he noticed me. Choi Dae-jung was a leader. A visionary. But also, he paused, choosing his words carefully, perhaps too idealistic, too focused on change rather than tradition. In his absence, we must decide what kind of family we will be. Ji-hoon tensed beside me. I put my hand on his knee under the table, a silent message. Not now. Stay calm. Min-suk continued. Tomorrow we bury him with honor. Then we make decisions about our future. About who leads. About what path we take. The grandmother spoke sharply in Korean. Min-suk responded, his tone respectful but firm. They went back and forth, and I caught enough to understand they were arguing about succession. About whether it should be Min-suk or Ji-hoon. About age versus vision. After dinner, as people dispersed, I watched carefully. Who talked to who? Who avoided who? Who looked nervous or guilty or calculating? I noticed Sang-woo, Mina's uncle, having a heated conversation with one of the cousins in a corner. Their body language was tense, secretive. I noticed Ji-hoon's cousin Tae-young watching him with something that looked like resentment. I noticed the way Min-suk spoke to the grandmother, respectful but also somewhat dismissive, like he was humoring her rather than truly listening. And I noticed someone else, a man I didn't recognize, probably in his 40s, well-dressed, confident. He stood with Min-suk's group but wasn't family. He watched everything with the calculated attention of someone gathering intelligence. "Who's that?" I whispered to Mina. "Mr. Pak. He's the consultant. Uncle Min-suk brought him in to help with business matters. But I don't like him. There's something off about him." Ji-hoon appeared at my elbow. "We need to talk. Privately." He led me to the library, the same soundproofed room where we'd talked 6 months ago. As soon as the door closed, he turned to me. "My uncle's phone is missing." "What?" "His phone. The personal one he always carried. It wasn't found at the accident site. It's not in his office. The police claim it must have been destroyed in the fire." But he pulled out his own phone, showing me data. I had access to his location tracking family security measure. The phone was active for 2 hours after his death. Someone had it. Someone used it. To do what? I don't know. But Uncle called me from that phone the night before he died. If there are messages, call logs, any indication of who he was meeting with or what he knew, then whoever has the phone has evidence. Or they destroyed it. We need to find out who had access to the crash site after the accident. Who could have taken it? That's going to be difficult. Family members went to the site. The police were there. Emergency services. He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. It could be anyone. Then we narrow it down. Who knew about the phone? Who would know it contained sensitive information? Everyone in the family knows Uncle kept a separate phone for important matters. But knowing and acting on that knowledge are different things. I thought for a moment. When's the will being read? Tomorrow. After the funeral. That's when we'll learn who benefits financially. That might tell us something. You think this was about money? Money, power, both. I leaned against the desk. Ji-hoon, someone in your family committed murder. We need to figure out who, why, and how before they realize we're investigating. Before they decide we're threats. He looked at me intently. Maya, you could leave. You could go back to Atlanta. You don't have to put yourself in danger for my family again. Your grandmother asked me to help. And I met his eyes. I cared about your uncle too. He kidnapped me, yeah, but he also protected me. He tried to do right by his family. He deserved better than this. Something shifted in Ji-hoon's expression. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We haven't solved anything. Still, thank you for being here. We stood there for a moment, and I felt the weight of everything unsaid between us. The trauma we'd shared. The trust we'd built. The connection that had formed under the most impossible circumstances. Then his phone buzzed. He checked it and his expression darkened. What? My cousin just texted. Someone broke into Uncle's home office. Tonight, while everyone was at dinner. What were they looking for? I don't know. But we need to find out. We headed to Choi Dae-jung's office in a different part of the compound. When we arrived, we found papers scattered, drawers opened, files pulled out. Someone had searched the place thoroughly but tried to make it look like they hadn't. This is wrong, Ji-hoon said, surveying the damage. Uncle was meticulous. Everything in its place. This is desperate, I finished. Someone was looking for something specific. Something they think he left behind. I moved carefully through the room, trying not to disturb things further. What did your uncle keep here? What would be worth this kind of risk? Business documents. Financial records. But those would all be in the safe, and it hasn't been opened. I looked at the safe, an expensive digital model completely intact. So they weren't looking for official documents. They were looking for something unofficial. Something hidden. Like what? Like evidence. Like proof of whatever he was going to tell you the morning he died. We searched carefully, looking for anything that seemed out of place. And then I noticed something. A photo on the wall, a family picture from years ago, was slightly crooked. I straightened it and realized there was something behind it. A USB drive taped to the back of the frame. Ji-hoon. He came over, saw what I'd found, and carefully removed it. Do you think? Only one way to find out. We went back to the library. Ji-hoon plugged the drive into his laptop, and we waited while it loaded. It was password protected. Damn it, Ji-hoon muttered, trying several combinations. None worked. Wait, I said. Try your grandmother's birthday. Why would he? Just try it. He did. The drive unlocked. What we found made everything so much worse. The USB drive contained everything. Audio recordings of conversations. Financial documents showing money being siphoned from family accounts. Emails discussing plans to sabotage the legitimate transition. Photos of secret meetings with rival families. And names. Lots of names. Oh my God, Ji-hoon whispered as we went through file after file. He was documenting everything. Everyone who was working against him. The evidence showed a conspiracy. Not just one person trying to stop the legitimate transition, but a coordinated effort by multiple family members. They'd been secretly working together for months, planning to take control after Dae-jung was removed. And at the center of it all was Choi Min-suk. But he wasn't working alone. The recording showed conversations with Mr. Pak, the consultant I'd noticed at dinner. Pak represented interests from the old world. Gambling operations, protection rackets, organized crime syndicates that wanted the Choi family to remain in the illegal business. They've been planning this for months, I said, clicking through documents. Your uncle knew. He was gathering evidence to expose them all at once. That's what he was going to show you the morning he died. And they killed him before he could, Ji-hoon said, his voice hollow. My own uncle. My father's brother. He murdered him. We don't know Min-suk pulled the trigger. He might have hired someone. It doesn't matter. He ordered it. He's responsible. Ji-hoon stood up abruptly, pacing. I'm going to confront him. I'm going to show everyone. No. I grabbed his arm. Ji-hoon, no. If you confront them now with just this evidence, what happens? They deny everything. They say your uncle was paranoid. They say the evidence is fabricated. Or worse, I lowered my voice. They eliminate the evidence and everyone who knows about it. So we do nothing? We do something smart. We figure out exactly who was involved. We get concrete proof of the murder, not just the conspiracy. And we wait for the right moment to expose everything. What moment? Tomorrow. At the funeral. when the whole family is together, when the grandmother can see the truth and make a decision about succession that everyone will have to respect. He stared at me. You want to expose a murder conspiracy at my uncle's funeral? I want to get justice for your uncle at his funeral. I want to honor him by finishing what he started, by protecting his family from the people trying to destroy it. Ji-hoon sank back into his chair. How? We have tonight to figure that out. We spent the next 4 hours going through every file on that USB drive, building a case, connecting dots, figuring out who knew what and when. Here's what we learned. Choi Min-suk had been secretly negotiating with rival families to maintain the Choi family's illegal operations. He'd been siphoning money from the legitimate businesses to fund these operations, and he'd been recruiting family members to his side by promising them more power and money under his leadership. Mr. Pak was his connection to the old world. Pak represented a coalition of criminal organizations that would lose significant revenue if the Choi family went fully legitimate. They'd offered Min-suk backing and protection in exchange for keeping things as they were. The conspiracy included at least 7 family members, including Sang-woo Mina's uncle, who'd been promised his gambling debts would be forgiven if he supported Min-suk. But the smoking gun, the actual evidence of murder, was harder to find. The audio recordings confirmed they discussed removing Dae-jung, but discussions weren't the same as proof of action, until we found a file labeled insurance. It was a video, security camera footage from a private garage. The timestamp showed the night before Choi Dae-jung's death. In the video, someone was working on a car, Dae-jung's car, working on the brake lines specifically. The person was wearing gloves, a hat, being careful not to show their face to the camera. But at one point they turned slightly, and we saw enough. Tae-young, Ji-hoon breathed. That's my cousin Tae-young. Tae-young was Min-suk's son, the heir apparent if Min-suk took control. Your uncle knew, I said quietly. He had this footage. He knew exactly who sabotaged his car and who ordered it. He had everything he needed to destroy them. So why didn't he? Because they're family. Because even knowing what they'd done, he wanted to give them a chance to confess, to choose differently. I looked at the timestamp again. He recorded this message to you the same night. Look, there's an audio file with the same date. Ji-hoon opened it. His uncle's voice filled the library. Ji-hoon, if you are hearing this, then I am gone. And you know the truth. I want you to understand something. Family is complicated. Blood does not excuse betrayal, but it makes it harder to act against. I have gathered this evidence not for revenge, but for protection. For you. For the future of our family. If Min-suk has succeeded in removing me, you must be smart. You cannot act from emotion. You must be strategic. Use this evidence to protect yourself but also to give our family a choice. Show them what was done. Let them decide what kind of family they want to be. You are young but you are ready. Trust your instincts. Trust those who have proven loyal. And remember, going legitimate was never about weakness. It was about strength. The strength to choose a better path. I am proud of you, Ji-hoon. Your father would be proud of you. Whatever happens, know that you are ready to lead. You just need to believe it yourself. Be safe. Be smart. Make me proud. The recording ended. Ji-hoon was crying. Silent tears running down his face. I put my hand on his shoulder, giving